Hi, this is Dana, and on this channel I speak about spiritual warfare. I have another channel on astrology, and I have a page on, or Facebook page with prophetic writings, which I invite you to read. Again, I say those are different informations than the ones I provide now here in my videos. So it will not be repetitive. Please go and read them, because at the time I spent more time and effort to relay information regarding actual spiritual fighting, which is very useful to many of you. I'm not repeating here the same information. I provide different information as I am in a different phase of my bondage breaking and spiritual fighting. I acknowledge as guided that there are individuals who are using my identity illegally. They're stealing my identity. They're using my identity fraudulously, using energy harvested in order to attack me, but also impersonating me, using my image, my name, my pictures, my name, my everything that they can actually get a hold of in order also to harm others. And this is the reason why I'm sharing this, so you can actually protect. Now, to the topic of this video is God has guided me to talk about something which I mentioned before, but to go more in depth to explain it clearly so people will understand. Namely, the fact that these individuals who do create bondages in order to have some sort of legitimacy to carry out these attacks, they use specific timelines. And I explained previously, all the bondages created on you are bondages created on your ancestors. So they use the same storyline as they used. Actually, let me rephrase this because it's not correct. They use a storyline invented by them about your and mine, our ancestors, and they use a distorted storyline which they invented according to their own needs to be able to create bondages on us. I asked God when this is important. First of all, it is important because this will help you in breaking the bondage and understanding what's the dynamic between them and what they intend to do to you. Okay? This is why it's important. It's very important in helping you to break the bondage, to understand the bondage which is created on you, because most times it's very complex kind of combination, networking among groups, individuals you meet, and in order for you to understand exactly what was done against you and who is planning what and for what reason and what they target, you must identify correctly what timeline they use. The timeline they create literally based on a certain narrative which is common knowledge in 3D, but it's a fake knowledge which they've been feeding on us about our ancestors. And I will give you examples. Greek mythology, Egyptian mythology, and so many others from ancient times, Jesus' story. This is I think, to me, it seems the most easy example to give, because I already told the true story about Jesus. So Jesus, they did a crucifixion in astral, a generational curse on Jesus, just like they do on all of us. Jesus, of course, defeated that, received a new embodiment from God, and moved in a different timeline, in a different region of the world. Now, after Jesus left, they created the story which the church is feeding on people, that Jesus died, that God wanted him to die in order to sacrifice him to take their karma, to erase their sins. Because this is what it means, to erase their sins. It means to take their karma, and therefore he was sacrificed by God in their crazy mind for their sins, which of course it's anomaly, it's not normal, and of course is not of God. This is one example how they created a fake timeline based on the story of Jesus, and if you identify as Jesus, as an embodiment of Jesus in this 3D, they will aim to do at you whatever is the narrative which they feed on individuals, namely this crazy story which the church is feeding on to people, that Jesus was killed because God wanted him to die in order to take their karma. This was not true. It didn't happen this way, but this is one of the things they do. As soon as you finish breaking a bondage and you move on, they create a fake narrative. They do the same with all the stories which they've been feeding on us about ancient times, about our ancestors. And they use this in order to create bondage on you. And I asked God why they do this, why they are attracted to use these stories, which they created, by the way, about ancient deities, about ancient individuals. And God showed me is because, of course, they are the creators of 3D, and they fight against God to maintain the 3D. And they have no identity for this reason. Most of their lineages, ancestors, and so on, and the divine realm, the council, literally outcasted them, because not everyone, but those of them who actually know the truth, and they are purposely doing harm onto others. Because also in these convents there are individuals who actually believe the same narrative as us, and they don't actually know exactly why they attack us. They attack us because they want money, because they want fame, because this and that and so on. And many of them have been brought up from young childhood with a specific trauma bonding and faults of character, which would make them vulnerable in order to be later on recruited and used. Anyhow, the focus of the discussion in this video is on this bondage creation. And so they use these storylines, these timelines, which they create by this story. They actually have a witchcraft book, which they call Book of Knowledge. It's not a book of knowledge, but they have a list of all of these bondages, fake timelines, which they create to trap us in these timelines in order to stop you from the purpose for which you came here, namely to break all of this. And also in that book, they also have list of all light workers from when they incarnated, when they were born, and with profile identified, what are the weaknesses, what are the fears, what are the dreams, what are their abilities, what are their gifts, what to be stolen from them, how can they be blocked, how can more trauma bonding be created on them. All convents contribute to this book of knowledge. So at some point, anyone that actually opens this book will know about you, what trauma you have been suffering throughout your lifetime, what kind of narcissistic relations you ever had that could be used as a trigger, as a hook, in order to torture you on subconscious level and to keep you stuck into submission, or even into depression, into whatever type of a situation applies to you. Yeah. So literally what they do, again, they use, because they don't have any identity, they've been actually outcasted by their own ancestors, by their own lineage, simply because they've done too much harm. Yeah. And because of course no lineage is willing to put up with the karma which they built, and for this reason they use these stories like Cleopatra, like Horus in Egypt, like Aphrodite in Greece, and so on and so forth. They use these timelines, and if you look at the stories which they've been feeding on us, because I imagine that most of us read about these stories at one point or another. You already know how they die, how they're killed, even timelines created based on stories of different saints. They still use that. And they use that because they need an excuse in their crazy mind and their rituals, which they do. They need some sort of excuse in order to attack you, and they need to be someone. They need to be somebody, you know. In fact, they're nobody. But regardless, they have this idea that they have to have an identity. It is not an embodiment created by God. This is a fact. It is not created by God. It's created by darkness. Namely, they use this book of knowledge of occult practices, and they use darkness, necromancy particularly. This is why they created necromancy, in order to use spirits of dead souls, dead people, basically. But in fact, necromancy is the same as sorcery. It's just that they use different type of forces. Namely, I explained, particularly in necromancy and graveyard magic and so on, they use the owl in order to gain power. Well, again, they use these stories in order to give a legitimacy to the action they take. And they, through the generational curse which they create on us at a very early age, they assign to you a different identity, you know. Like, I will give you two examples, just very simple. Like, you would be, for example, Virgin Mary, but they create a bondage on you in order to prevent you to achieve your purpose as Virgin Mary, and they give you an embodiment as Maria Magdalena. Yeah, so you will understand exactly how it works, and they will create all your life, 49 years, as long as this is the generational curse, bondages and traumas on you, and they will send individuals in your way and in your life. They will plant individuals who actually are being paid in order to create that embodiment on you. Yeah? So this is very important. And of course, they will always choose to create a karmic identity on you, something which must be very different than what you are in reality. Because clearly, you are only what God, what embodiment God created on you. All the rest is work of darkness. God is showing to me that actually, even at Christianing, especially for Christians, they create that they assign an identity to you, you know. And they, of course, assign a purpose to you, how they intend to use you, you know. Of course. Yeah, so they use that identity which they try to impose on you to become, and in order to block you. And then they will try to trap you in that timeline, which is a fake timeline. They created that timeline. Yeah. They will try to block you in that timeline in order to not, so you will not step into your power and to actually achieve your purpose. I mean, how to say this? Integrate. God says, integrate your embodiment. Yeah. To integrate and actually do work on the embodiment which God has activated on you. Yeah. So they do this, but the purpose for you is to break free from all of this, which is a fake timeline associated to the generational curse and bondage created on you. So you can actually step into your power, into your new beginning, into your true embodiment, which has been activated on you by God, who is the only one who can activate embodiments on individuals. Yeah. Okay. Now I think this is important again for you. When you do bondage breaking, please try to identify what type of identity they attached to you. And you can see this through divine guidance, but you can also see this through the attacks they do. There are also meditations specifically for this, meditations of regression. And you can find that on many of the prophetic writings published on my Facebook. I give there, again, I say, please go and read my prophetic writings, because I give there much more information about spiritual fighting, because I was doing a different type of, I was doing the spiritual fighting necessary in order to break bondage. Now, I started making videos at the end when I finished breaking the bondage. So for this purpose, I only made videos on topics which God has guided me. But my prophetic writings talk in details about how you counteract an attack. What do you do? What do you say? So they're very applied type of information, particularly in the beginning of 2019, when I was actually doing that. Afterwards, I approached different topics because I was done explaining all of that. Yeah. Okay. So I guess I hope the message is clear. They use a fake timeline created by them, and they, according to that, they do an embodiment on you, which is not true. It's not real. It's only basically attacks with darkness. This is the purpose of the attacks they do in order to create that embodiment on you. Yeah. So and when you do the spiritual fighting, it is extremely useful to understand what kind of embodiment, fake embodiment they created on you, and what is their purpose, what they want to achieve. But most important is to understand what is exactly the narrative which they try to impose on you, because by that you will be able to understand who is who wants what from you, and you will be able to protect yourself much more and defend yourself, and also you will be able to break the bondage faster. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna stop now because I feel like that the message was already conveyed. If you have any questions, as always, please do not hesitate to contact me in comment section. Write your question and I will be happy to answer. You will find also in the description box below not only my Facebook page, but also my PayPal account, if you feel inclined to support my work and my channel. And if you have any questions on this matter, please don't hesitate to ask. This is important. This is very important to structure your spiritual fighting and to achieve progress, basically. Because as we all know the stories which they use, then you will understand how far are you in breaking that bondage. And you will be able to predict, to guess what kind of attacks they will send next. And I'll give you an example. In Cleopatra's story, there's a suicide, which is not true, by the way. God has shown me that was not true. They were trying to poison Cleopatra, and she didn't take the poison because she knew it's poison in the glass. And a servant of her took the glass and drank it and died. And then they said they killed Cleopatra. They also light up a fire, like a house fire, in order to say that she was the one who was dead there, but it wasn't her. This is just one example to show you how they distort the storyline into something that they want to achieve. Because for them, the purpose for whoever carries on Cleopatra embodiment is to kill her. So then they distorted the story in such a way so she would basically die at a very early age. Yeah. Okay. This is the message that God asked me to convey. I hope this is useful to individuals, and I hope it's clear enough. To me, it's very clear, but the true test of clarity comes when those who listen also understand and feel how to apply it. Yeah? Okay. I'll see you in my next video.